And you know what? I think we're going to go forward with introductions here. Hi,
Perfect.
everybody. Thank you for joining us for today's Campus Connection virtual event. In case you didn't hear Sarah say it, my name is Jarrett Hartman, and I'm the University Talent Director for Tech San Diego. Before I introduce today's presenter, I'd like to say just a couple things about Tech San Diego and today's webinar. Tech San Diego is a nonprofit that works with small to mid-sized companies here in the San Diego region. My job as the University Talent Director is really to make sure students know about opportunities available in our local tech ecosystem, like internships and open job postings. But I also work closely with campus departments and student organizations to make sure that they have easy access to members of our local tech community. If you're a part of a student org and you'd like to collaborate with Tech San Diego, please reach out to jarett.hartman@techsd.org, and we can go from there. You can also visit our website, techsandiego.org. With all that out of the way, I'd like to introduce Jeremy Ogeda. Jeremy is a US Navy veteran with 6 years of recruitment experience. He's a San Diego State University alum with a degree in communications. He works as the HR business partner in talent acquisition for ESET North America, one of the leading cybersecurity companies in the world. He focuses each day on finding great talent that will lead to successful long-term results for the US and Canada. If you have any questions for Jeremy during his presentation, please just ask them in the chat and we'll get to them after he's done with his presentation. All right, with that, go ahead and take it away, Jeremy.
Thank you, Jarrett. I want to thank you for being here. Everyone that RSVP'd and show up. These are, challenging times we're living in, and I know that for many of you that have earned a degree and are looking to begin your corporate American career, this isn't ideal, but I hope that I can help in some small way. So I'd like to present to you certain tips and tricks, if you will, of landing a job. These are, if they're done over and over repeatedly, hopefully the outcome is positive and the probability is higher for you to land that job. So a little bit about me. I've been a recruiter for the past 6 years, whether I started as a recruitment specialist, getting people to apply for a job somewhere else in the country. I was a travel recruiter for a bit, and then segue quickly to a corporate recruiter where I really have found a passion, and I really figured, what I could be great at, or good at least. And I've worked alongside many different type of job seekers. I've worked with individuals who want so badly to work at the company that I'm recruiting for. I've worked with people who are looking to leave a poor working environment, and also people that are so well qualified for the position, and for some shape, form, or reason, I had to respectfully decline. And amidst all of these conversations, I have had many interactions with new grads, recent alumni, just like yourself, motivated to begin, their corporate American career. So I hope to communicate some value to each of you during this webinar by shedding those tips on how to better prepare for the next step that you inevitably will take in your life. So I'd like to, it wouldn't be a true new grad webinar without connecting and talking about the new grad Catch22. I think, can you see that? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Okay, you got it? Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm doing two screens. I just have a question. Is anybody, if you've ever been familiar with the Catch22, I've heard this many times interviewing new grads. It's, well, I've been applying for positions, I've been going on interviews, but I can't seem to get the job because I don't have the experience, but I don't have the experience, so I can't get the job. And if you've ever heard this, or maybe that's something that you're about to experience and you're thinking, how can we break this cycle? Can we break this cycle? And I'm here to communicate you absolutely can break this loop of experience in obtaining a job. You are not the first new grad that's going to enter the workforce, and you certainly will not be the last. So let's talk about a few strategies, easy strategies that you have a higher probability for success. Okay, so sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, so the job landing strategy, I think there's a delay. Really quickly, we'll talk about the job search, we'll talk about communication and the interview. So for the job search, we're going to talk about being strategic in your job search approach, not just mass applying. Also communication, we're going to talk about a few ways that you're communicating with the recruiter or that company, and you might not even know it. So we need to be clear about putting yourself in a positive light. And then lastly, the most important part is the interview. Are you effectively communicating what you have done and what you hope to do in the future? So in regard to the job search, the job search is significant because this is going to allow you to curate the jobs that you intend to be considered for and ultimately offered. That is the goal. And most of us know the company giants like Amazon, Indeed, LinkedIn, Tesla, or even Google or other companies here in San Diego. But understanding the type of role that you desire to work with within any organization, big or small, is really key. So this takes just a little bit of planning. There is a quote that says, if you don't know where you're going, you will end up someplace else. And what this means for recruiting is when you start applying for positions, if you start mass applying to jobs, then who knows where you'll land, because each of you are smart, each of you are motivated, you will get a position. But being smart as to where you'll land is really key. So the first element really is, what is your motivation? What is your motivation? It is the key element to understand what motivates you. This is something that nobody else can do for you. This is a question that you have to ask yourself in order really to find the answer. Think about if Google called somebody from this presentation today and said, you new grads, we're going to offer one of you a position. What do you want to do in our organization? And some new grads that I've talked to, the first thing they say is, I want to grow, I want to learn. I'm not really so much interested in the job. I just really want to work for a great company like Google. As a recruiter, when I hear this, the first thing I do is great. I say more power to you. But as a recruiter, I immediately discuss only the open roles that they're interested in. I move to the qualifications. I work pretty fast to lead the applicant to see for themselves that this job might not be the right fit for them at this moment. So by not understanding what you want to do, the job, the industry, what you're motivated to do can mitigate a lot of the time lost on a phone screen or an in-person interview. You have to see what holds value for yourself. The next thing that is really powerful is research. I mean, heavy research. You should really take the time to understand the job description. Working to understand, okay, what are the duties of this job and what will I be doing each and every day on the daily basis? Also, it's important to understand the department that you'll be working under and the industry that you'll be working for. So for instance, I've been lucky enough to work for some really great companies, and two of them happen to have the word healthcare incorporated within their title. And countless new grads, countless candidates, they've stated very early on, I'm motivated by healthcare. I'm motivated to help people. I come from a long line of doctors or nurses. But it's a key to understand that our organization, though we help healthcare, that company didn't provide bedside assistance. Maybe it's a marketing and you're marketing a tool or a system to a healthcare facility. Maybe you're on the sales side and you're understanding people's motivations and getting them a job in healthcare. So if you begin by not understanding the department, the industry, or even the company, that's going to be a more difficult or challenge to mitigate if I have to have a conversation. Hey, let's talk about what this position is and what you're motivated to do, because I think there's really a disconnect. And also understanding what the company is, maybe their company standings. This can be done by a quick Google search. Hey, I saw ABC company won an award back in 2019 for Best Tech San Diego. I'm really motivated to work for a really great organization. right there, that shows me that you have taken the time to research our organization, and this allows me to see what your motivation is in a positive light. The next tactic, if I can go, and I think there's a delay with my computer, so I apologize, is your communication. So communication is a huge word. My degree is in communication, and a lot of people understand that, have heard that 95% of communication is nonverbal. The reason why this is important is because no one gets a job in one phone call or one email. Landing a job, it's going to take multiple interactions, multiple interviews, follow-up calls, and each of these interactions, you're communicating a little bit more about you. What you're ultimately doing is communicating to the company. You're telling them a story about who you are. So how you interact and communicate with the recruiter or the hiring manager speaks volumes. I can't tell you volumes in regard to your eagerness, your reliability, your intent for the job. And this is really professional etiquette. This is something I didn't really understand until I was actually a corporate recruiter. For instance, whether you're a LinkedIn candidate, or maybe you applied on our website, or maybe you're a referral from someone who works there, it's important how you respond. And not only how you respond, but how long it takes you to reply. We as humans understand that we will make time for the people and the things that we want to. So if this is a position that you've researched, you're motivated to do, once you see that call from ABC company, you're much more likely to update very quickly. And that's going to tell me as a recruiter in that company, okay, this person is motivated and ready to go. Let's talk to him. Another professional courtesy is, are you personable on the phone? Are you personable on the email? And this is more than just being nice or being friendly. Are you going straight to the pay? Hey, what is this job paying me? Are you going straight to, hey, how is this going to benefit me as the job seeker? Because remember, the recruiter really is the neutral party. They're looking for the right fit for you. We want to make sure that we offer the job to the person that will come in here, work really hard, but also we're working with the hiring manager to understand, okay, I'm producing to you people that are qualified, people that are motivated, and people that will be successful under your leadership. Excuse me. So all of this is very telling in regard to your demeanor in your professional etiquette. And also another tip, recently we just had a marketing position that was very entry level. Tons and tons of people applied for this position. And the candidate flow was great. And when we got down to 10 really qualified candidates, about only four of them, committed and produced a portfolio for their work when it was requested. So this really shows intention, it shows follow through, and some believe that this is really a precursor to what they're going to get. So it really does matter how you're communicating, what type of information that you're providing that company when they ask. Another source of tip is asking really great questions. This is really good in any interview. Maybe it's about growth, maybe it's potential. You don't want to ask any questions that you can really look up on Google, or ask the interviewer, hey, what is your career timeline? Or, how long have you been in seat? Those are really great questions. Those are very kind questions. But this takes away time that's highlighting from you, showcasing your attributes, your successes, how you can be better. Maybe asking about career growth. Hey, I'm curious about the career growth. Can you tell me how long someone is in seat typically before they're promoted? This is almost as a second tier question. That shows that you're looking deeply and intently on the impact that this job is already having on a current person in that role. And you're already thinking, hey, before I'm offered this role, I'm already looking to succeed. So that's really key, because I know a lot of hiring managers that I've worked for, they really look at what are the questions this person is asking. So the next strategy that is important, is probably the most, is the interview. So how are you interviewing? Have you ever been in a conversation where you're talking to somebody and they're having a really hard or a challenging time articulating a story or maybe a punchline, and you're looking at them and it's almost painful to watch them tell the story. I've actually been very I've done this very much, but you do not want to do that in the interview. That is not the time to really choke and not be able to articulate your attributes and your successes. Something to note is really storytellers get a vast majority of jobs, and knowing how to tell a well-formulated story is in the form of an answer is really crucial, and doing this multiple times is very much helpful. So there's a lot of variations in regard to tips. There's tricks about how to interview right. They're going to tell you to look this person in the eye, maybe to shake their hand, or to stand up when they open the room. And all of these are really good. And I would encourage you to do all of those. But the most important thing to do is, are you effectively communicating your past success, your core competencies, and showcasing your eagerness and for this specific job? And I've spoken to more new grads than I can remember on a simple trick that I learned at SDSU in Mr. Rapp's interviewing class. And the acronym is STAR. I think that this is very useful. I think this is very quick to understand, and knowing how to formulate an answer is really key. So if someone's asking you a question, hey, tell me about a time when you worked with a difficult member in a group, how did you overcome that? Tell me about a time in your internship where you were met with a negative response from a peer. How did you handle that? Or working in customer service, not everybody's happy all the time. Tell me about a time that something didn't go as planned. How did you fix that? Orienting it in this STAR by first stating the situation. Set up the job, set up the company, set up the reference, pretend that this person has never looked at your resume. You're beginning by setting the foundation of the story, by telling, hey, when I went to San Diego State as a freshman, or when I worked as a recruiter at ABC Company, or when I worked as a server at Shenanigans. This is setting the beginning of your answer. The next is the task. This is really going to restate the question that you've just been asked in your own words, and this can be done very quickly. This just shows that you can articulate back to this person what you're being asked. A is really most important. It's the action. It's really the detail. This is what you did. You as the applicant. The recruiter or the hiring manager is not interested to understand what your peer did, what your teacher did, what your manager did. What specifically did you do? What action did you take? And then roundhousing it with the result. And this is what people often fail to do. They'll answer the question, hey, this is what I did. You're asking me the question, which is great, but what is the result of my action? Maybe it's in sales and you met your quota, you exceeded your quota. Maybe it's customer service. Hey, that person, not everyone left on happy terms, but I knew for the next time I learned from this moment, and the next time I really did better in that certain situation. If more people do this step without even knowing it, much of the time I move them forward to an in-person interview, because not all applicants understand that this skill or how to effectively communicate what they've done. And also as a recruiter, this allows me really to ask less questions, because I can assume, hey, this person has done this job, this person can articulate, and this person, I can believe this person of doing this position. And if they go in for an interview and ask a question, they will more than likely answer it in this next way. So that is really the format. It's, job searching strategically, communicating, whether it's on LinkedIn with the recruiter, telling the story, getting back to them on time, finding your motivation, and interviewing well. These are all key, and a lot of recruiters have their own tips and tricks, and I hope this can really help you just a little bit. Use what you like and then just disregard what you don't. But that's really the end of this presentation. But I'd like to answer any questions for anybody that has anything specific that they'd like to ask a recruiter, and if I can help, I definitely will.
Jeremy, really quickly, we have a question in the questions section. I'll let Jarrett take over.
And actually, Sarah, I'm trying to see it myself. Oh, here we go. Do you have any tips for people who are introverted so they don't choke up during an interview?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. It's, as a recruiter, I've interviewed many different types of people, and maybe these tricks help you, maybe they don't. I think if you're introverted, maybe it's harder for you to be the warm and fuzzy. Maybe it's harder for you to connect at the very beginning. What I would really suggest is following up any action item that's required, being on it more than the other person, and also in the interviewing, if you can formulate your answers with stats or results and action items, that can speak more volumes than if you're the most extroverted person in the past. Hey, in my current position, I do A, B, C, and D. And this is the result. If you do that over and over, what the goal that you're trying to do is not be the most personable, but be the most competent and well qualified. So the interview is where really you can shine. Maybe it's not in the introduction, but it is in the meat of the answers that you tell. I hope that helps. And I mean, that would be my only suggestion to you. That's a really good question, though.
Perfect. Thank you, Fernando. And if anybody else has any questions, please feel free to send them in. But I have a couple questions of my own. Besides the topics covered in that STAR kind of acronym, do you have any other advice for crafting like personal narrative points that a recruiter might like to hear about or from a candidate before an interview?
Before an interview, I think at the very beginning, a lot of interviews begin with the phone screen. So, when one of the questions that I ask is, hey, I'm just curious, what's your biggest motivator to look for a new opportunity, or what prompted you to take my call? I'm really happy that you did, but I'm just curious, what motivated you to take this call? A lot of times that's very telling in regard to what this person's intentions are. Maybe you can really quickly discern that this is a passive candidate. They're just looking for maybe information, they're looking for pay, they have a really great opportunity now, they're not really looking to move, but by trying to communicate your motivation and what you're looking for and your eagerness, that's really key for me, because if I can get the sense that you're not really motivated by this job, I try to end the call very quickly. So I think before you even begin interviewing, going back to your motivation of why am I taking this call? Why did I apply to this job? And I think that will take you further. And recruiters want to know that, hey, if we bring this person in, this person is showing interest, they're showing motivation, they're showing competency, that they'll show up for the in-person interview and they will accept the job if it's offered. So I think that would be key for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's great. And actually, we've got a good number of questions that came in just the last minute or two. Here's one from Beverly Bracker. She's from SDSU. She's in their career services department.
SDSU.
What do you want to hear in response to tell me about yourself?
Tell me about yourself. Well, I mean, this question is really all about preference. So, you are going to walk in to many foreign companies, you don't know any of them, and you're going to sit in front of them and they're going to try to talk to you about your competencies, and no interview can fully understand how exceptional each of you are. No interview can. But if you're sitting in front of me and you're motivated for this job, and I tell you, hey, tell me about yourself, it's important to really get to the point very quickly and always bring it back to the job. So if you start telling me about, hey, I'm from Texas and my degree's in communication, and then I changed my degree, and then I was looking at this job, if it is long-winded, that's a key that you might be a little nervous and we can give you some time to overcome. But how you communicate from the very beginning, your intention, go into your degree maybe why you chose your degree, and then why you're applying for this position, and be specific in the job duties. So, hey, I'm about to graduate from San Diego State University with a degree in communication, where I've studied the art of how to communicate verbally and non-verbally. I applied to this job specifically because not only is ABC company the best in the business, but this sales position is entirely on the phone, and I connect very easy. I'm metrics driven, and I really want to succeed within this industry. That's going to tell me more than if you just start going off personal attributes, because I've definitely had calls where people kind of just go off the beaten path, and you have to kind of steer them to the point and the meat of why we're here. I hope that makes sense.
Jeremy, that was a great answer from you. Here's one of our next questions is, when during the interview process is a good time to ask about pay?
Oh, well, that's okay. I love that question. You know, when you're applying for jobs, and I remember when I graduated college, I could not find a job anywhere, and it was kind of a no-no to ask for pay. I didn't know how to do that. Being a recruiter now, you can be strategic about how you ask, and everybody has their own preference. However, in the state of California, if you are interviewing for a job and you ask the recruiter, hey, I'm just curious, what is the salary range for this position? That's a much better question than, hey, what does this pay? One is more warm, more welcoming. You're more into a conversation. The other is, hey, tell me what I need to move and move on, what I need to know and move on. You can definitely do that. A lot of sales people say, hey, what's the commission structure? And that makes sense for sales. But asking what the range is for a specific role, and maybe asking, hey, is there any possibility of an increase? That's a good question. And I wouldn't go any more. A lot of hourly paying positions have that within the job description, but in the state of California, if you ask, a recruiter, should be telling you what the range is. And if it doesn't work for you, you can still make a connection and respectfully decline. I wouldn't say no right away. Just say, hey, I appreciate, but if we can't budge on the range, this isn't something that I'm really motivated by and would compel me to make a move from my current position or take this position with other offers. But I appreciate your time. You always want to end it on a great note, but I would just ask them, hey, what is the salary range of this position? That's a better way to frame it. As to when to ask that, I would personally wait until you built a little bit of rapport, maybe after you're asked a few questions about yourself. And once the interview starts getting into the meat, you'd say, hey, I'm really grateful for this time that you've set aside for me, and I'd love to tell you more about myself. I'm just curious, can you let me know what the salary range is for this? And this is after you've done the pleasantries. It's just more, it's not as left off-putting than if you do it right from the get-go. That would be my preference or my take on it.
Great, thank you, Jeremy. And we've got 4 more questions we'll go with.
Okay.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, so what are good questions job seekers should prepare for? What are your favorite questions to ask? And what is the best question that you received at the end of an interview?
So the first question was, what are good questions to ask to be ready for? Is that what you said? So we'll break it off. I think when you go back to the research of the job description, the company, the department, understanding what role it is, you can really Google some questions that you could be asked. If you're going for a sales position or you're going to be making a lot of calls or selling any kind of product, more often than not, you'll be asked, hey, are you a metrics-driven person? Tell me, are you competitive? Because those for sales-minded people are more so competitive and they want to do better. Maybe it's like a lot of data entry. Maybe it's compliance. Maybe you're heavy in spreadsheets. Getting ready for examples of, hey, have you ever worked with spreadsheets? Oh yeah, in my class I've worked with spreadsheets for my statistics class. I mean, I would just really understand the job that you're interviewing for and doing a really quick Google search, because I don't recruit for every type of job. But when there is a job that's open, there's a spreadsheet that I can refer to and like, hey, these are good questions if you're interviewing for this type of role to kind of vet for. So that's the only thing I could really add of value there. What was the next question? I'm so sorry.
Basically, they just want to know, are there any good questions that you like to ask, or is there a particular question that was asked to you during an interview that you really liked?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna be very honest with you. When you interview, a lot of questions I get is, hey, what's your favorite part of working here? Or, hey, how long have you worked here? Or how long have you had this job? Two things to understand. A, you can see that on a recruiter's LinkedIn or a hiring manager. And by asking me my favorite thing about working here, that if that is important to you, ask away. If you need to know that. However, this takes a lot away from showcasing yourself. So asking questions about career growth and kind of those second tier questions, like I mentioned, hey, if I am offered this position and I take this position and I work really hard, when could I be promoted? People that are in this role, typically, how long are they in seat? Questions that drive it back to you, and I'm still going to tell you about the organization and the company. Well, typically, people are in seat maybe a year and a half. People who work really hard can get promoted, definitely get promoted sooner. Our culture promotes that. They promote success, and I can go into kind of selling you my company at that point, but I would keep it very much on you, what you need to know to take the job, and not really frame it to anybody else that you're interviewing for, because they want to learn about you. And once you're offered the job, then they can divulge everything about themselves. I hope that makes sense.
It did, and we've actually gotten a question about LinkedIn. So, as a recruiter, do you look at a LinkedIn profile when a person applies for a job? Do you have any recommendations to make a LinkedIn page stand out? Do you focus more on the resume?
Yes, so that's great, because when I graduated college, I definitely did not have a LinkedIn, and as a recruiter, I mean, I live on that. So for every company, all the recruiters, this is what they're doing on LinkedIn. They're searching millions of people, thousands of people within a city, and they're doing keyword searches. So they're weeding through people, and they're trying to find individuals that have certain words within their LinkedIn profile. Really, that is all they're doing, because there's no other way to, you could go through your connections, but you can do a search. So if I'm looking for an entry-level marketing coordinator, it would be really great to have the word coordinator, to have the word marketing, to look at job descriptions when you do that research of industries and jobs. Okay, I'm looking and I'm seeing these job duties. A lot of them are spreadsheets. A lot of them are logistics. A lot of them are attention to detail. I'm going to put that in the description of the jobs that I've done. Any example that I have about working with spreadsheets and being meticulous, or maybe it's for sales, hitting a quota, exceeding metrics. Because when I search those keywords, all these profiles will populate, and then from there I go, and then I quick reference, okay, where has this person worked? How long have they worked there? The resume is good. The resume is really good, but it needs to match your LinkedIn or vice versa. So that's what I would do. I would go through your past experiences, look at jobs that you're applying for. If you see common words, put those examples, because that way I, as a recruiter, can find you. That will allow me straight to you. And then I can give you a call and say, hey, I saw that you're open to new opportunities, or I saw that you're recently graduating and you have heavy Excel spreadsheet. We're looking for an entry-level position. What about jumping on a call tomorrow at 2? That's really how I structure my day. But those keywords are crucial, and looking at the jobs that you're interviewing for is great, because when I'm looking at a resume or a LinkedIn profile, I know what the job is. I look at the duties, and anytime I see more of it in a resume, it really catches my eye more so than people that don't have those keywords. I hope that that helps, but definitely get a LinkedIn.
Perfect. And we've got one more question for you, and it's going to kind of lead into some of our final notes here. But what if you haven't prepared an answer for a question they, like a recruiter, have asked you during your interview?
You mean like, oh, you mean if a question catches you off guard?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, that's definitely happened to me. I think, you know, a good recruiter will understand that, hey, you're nervous, you have nerves, and should give you a little bit of time to kind of recoup your thoughts, or at least I do, and that's how, you know, I was taught. But if something catches you off guard, you know, I think calling that out isn't the worst thing. You know, say, hey, right now I'm actually a little bit, that's a little bit over my head. Let me think about that, and then I want to formulate an answer that is correct. And then maybe they'll give you the time, or maybe they'll keep it moving, and that'll help you. What I tell internal candidates, anyone that's looking for an opportunity internally for promotion, we still interview those people, or I'm sorry, those internal employees. And I say, hey, depending on what your job is, go into it knowing a few situational question or answers that you can always pull from. So if your sales, you know, talk about a time that you were on the phone and you exceeded a call, you didn't even know that you were going to do it. Or maybe a person you were following up with 100 times finally called you back and you finally got that sell. Or maybe you're in project manager and there was a project that you did on time, you exceeded the time crunch, and then you did a little bit more. If you have 2 or 3 in the back of your mind to pull from, and you structure it with the star, the situation, the task, the result, the action, that will allow you to kind of grab that, oh, he's talking about metrics, or she's talking about customer service. I'm going to pull from that really quickly. That would actually be kind of your first step. But if it doesn't, I would definitely tell them that, and they should be kind enough to give you the time to formulate an answer.
Great. Thank you very much, Jeremy. I kind of wanted to piggyback off your answer. We had some feedback from one of the career services person, Beverly, and she said, you know, prepare early. You can go, if you're a student, you can go to your career services department at your respective university. They're more than happy to do mock interviews, help you prepare, work on your resumes, and also help you get onto the systems that can help you find job openings and internship openings. So please use your career services departments. They can get you prepared so that you don't have to you know, wing it during the course of an actual interview. It can really help you kind of batten down the hatches in terms of your interview and your skill setting. With that, Jeremy, I want to say thank you very much. That was a great presentation. Thank you so much for talking to all of our students and campus partners today. Before we go, we did have one more question about where to find job openings. And I think just like Jeremy said, LinkedIn is going to be a great resource for you. Your career services departments, I know that multiple universities here in San Diego use Handshake, and as a student, you should have access to Handshake. It's essentially a listing of job and internship postings, but also Tech San Diego has one of the largest regional tech directories pretty much in the region. We continue to update it. We've got a number of company listings, their career department information and contact information. So we're constantly updating it. They have the internship postings there. We have little badges of who's hiring. So please check that out on techsandiego.org. It's our regional tech directory. With that, Jeremy, thank you again so much. This was a great presentation. If anybody else has questions from today's presentation, is there any way that they can get in touch with you to ask, or how best to navigate those questions?
Yeah, you can add me on LinkedIn, and if there's any connection that you see from a company or a job that you want to be introduced to, even if I don't know them personally, I'm more than happy to make an introduction when I have the time. But yeah, LinkedIn is where you can find me. My name is on this presentation. And before I go, I just wanted to let each of you know that, you know, 6 years ago when I graduated college, like I said, it took me, I think, 6 months to find a job. I couldn't find a job. And I realize now that I didn't have a structure. I was mass applying. I didn't know how to interview. And then my career kind of just took off in its own way. And your career will ultimately take off. About 10 months ago, I was in the exact same boat as you. I was looking for a new opportunity, and seeking a new job, it is stressful. Going into interviews, sitting down with people that don't know you. And like I said, I really mean, these recruiters cannot begin to understand how great that you can be. But I want these strategies to hold some sort of value, so that if it takes you 2 months, if it takes you 6 months, or it takes you 6 years, once you understand the job that you want or what you want your career to look like, I tell everyone, go get that job. If you follow some steps, take what you like, discard what you don't, do it over and over and over, you can ultimately land the job that you want. So yeah, reach out to me on LinkedIn. If I can help you, I definitely will. But I just wanted to let you know that, because you got a long road ahead of you, but you have so much potential, and everyone will find a job.
Well, that's a great note to end on. Thank you very much, Jeremy. Again, reach out to Jeremy if you have any questions, and we're going to be posting this online to our YouTube page, and it will be automatically sent off to any registrants for this event. So if you ever want to go back and kind of review what Jeremy was saying, or see how he was answering the questions, please do. This is going to be available for you to view.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye.
Really?
Hello?
Yeah, hold on one second. I'm hanging up.